YouTube Nation, what is up? Welcome to another episode of the Tailgate Talkers podcast. I'm your host, Justin Morris, and as you can see, I got no co-host. Dana is actually with his wife right now at a hospital having a baby, so congratulations to him, man. I know you're super stoked, probably pretty damn nervous as well, but you'll do just fine. As for me, I got to carry this podcast all by myself. Lord help us. But I did make a run sheet to keep me somewhat on track, and it says right here I should start with our season pick standings like we do each and every episode. So there was a little discrepancy with our pick standings, like the standings, the games weren't equaling how many picks we've made. So I had to go through all the way from our first episode all the way up till now to kind of see where the error was. And I did find it. I wish I didn't because it made our pick standings even worse. So I'm right now 21-21 with my picks. Dane is 18-24. Good Lord. But, you know, my goal was to finish above 500. If I can do that, I'll count that as a win. Speaking of the games last week that we picked, we're going to start with the Seahawks beating the Rams 38-37 in overtime. Wow, did this week start off with a bang. Game of the week, dare I say game of the year? This was one of those games where you thought it was over, kind of midway-ish through the fourth quarter, and the Seahawks just found a way, man. I come away with that game thinking the Rams are still the better team, still the team to beat in the NFC. However, man, the Seahawks, they have an iron grip around that number one seed. And honestly, if you're an opposing team, that's probably not what you want. Like, if you think about it, where would you rather travel to? Would you rather go to LA to face the Rams, or would you rather go to Seattle to face the Seahawks? Honestly, I don't think LA is that big of a home field advantage for the Rams. It kind of sucks the Seahawks have the home field advantage. If you know, when I look at it that way, I'd much rather the Rams would have gotten it, but it is what it is. I do think those were the two best teams in the NFC battling it out. I don't come away from the game feeling better about Sam Darnold. However, I think Sam Darnold comes out of the game feeling better about himself. What I mean by that is Sam Darnold still threw an interception, still looked a little lost at times and everything like that, still a little ho-hum, but he beat the Rams, you know, and whenever you can get that win, man, it builds such confidence. Now the Seahawks are not, I don't think they were scared of the Rams period in the first place, but now that you beat them, it's kind of like, all right, bring them on. Now the Rams have kind of lost a couple games here. Like they lost to the Panthers, which, don't quote me on this, I think if the season ended today, the Rams would travel to Carolina to take on those same Panthers. So nothing's safe. It was just an amazing game. That I think it was a 2-point. Was it a 2-point conversion? Was it a touchdown? I think it was a 2-point conversion. I can't remember. But where it was a backwards pass and the wherewithal, you know, it was incomplete or whatever like that. But the wherewithal to go into the end zone to pick up the ball, man. Like I don't think I've ever seen that. And kudos for the referees not blowing the whistle. I don't even know if it would have mattered if they blew the whistle or not. I'm not that privy on the rules. Just the wherewithal to pick up the ball, and like he's like, wow, I just scored a 2-point conversion just by picking up a damn ball. Cool. It was pure theater. It was pure theater to watch that game. I really thought it'd be much more low scoring. I don't know where the defenses were in this game, but you know, the first game, it was all about defense. This game, man, offenses came alive. It was pure joy to watch. Now it's not completely over. The Seahawks have the Panthers next. Now I will tell you, don't sleep on the Panthers. Am I predicting the Panthers to beat the Seahawks? No. Would I be shocked? No. So that number one seed is not completely set in stone yet. I do think the Seahawks will end up winning it, but it's not set in stone. And speaking of the NFC South, I do think the Panthers end up winning that division. Now, the Bucs will have a say in it. They do play each other, the Bucs and the Panthers, last week of the season. So that's still up in the air, but I do think the Panthers are going to be the representatives out of that division. And look, they're a weird team to figure out. They lose to bad teams. They beat good teams. It's so weird. They're such a weird team to figure out, but there's a lot of grit on that team. So Seattle, even though they won this game against the Rams, it's not over. Keep an eye on that game. That could be like a sneaky, you know, game that could go against Seattle. I'm not predicting it. I'm predicting the Seahawks to win, but The one seed still has a gray area to it. Okay. Either way, it was an amazing game to watch. Could not have started this week better. Good God, dude. Puka Nacua, dude. Like 200 and some, what did he have? He had 225 yards and 2 touchdowns on 12 receptions. He got you 46 and a half fantasy points. So I'm RIP my fantasy team. Matthew Stafford played well. He was 29 of 49 for 457 yards and 3 touchdowns. The guy, I know he was in a losing effort, but you got to look at him as the MVP right now. I know there's Josh Allen, there's Drake May. I think it's Matthew Stafford's award to lose. And I think the Rams played better. I mean, it was the only time in NFL history where a team had like close to 600 yards offense, didn't turn the ball over themselves, got 3 turnovers themselves, and still lost the game. That's why I came out of the game thinking like, man, the Rams look like the better team. Not to discredit the Seahawks at all, but the Rams just, they looked like the better team in that game and still found a way losing it. It was a wild, wild, wild game out in the wild, wild west. It was weird. So great game. All right, we move on to the Eagles beating the Commanders 29-18. This game, man, if you ever want to see must-watch television or just must-watch video, there should be a camera on me as I watch the Eagles game. Anyone who likes rants or just likes, get a bag of popcorn and just loves, eating that shit up, watch me watch an Eagles game because it is F-bombs galore. I looked at it like the Commanders are they're just waiting for an excuse to quit, to just, get ready, finish up the season and freaking go on vacation, go to Cancun, whatever they want to freaking do. They're just looking for a reason to quit. Don't give them a reason to want to fight or to think they have a chance. Just don't give them a reason. On the opening kickoff of the game, we fumble the ball and give it to the Commanders at the 30-yard line. The first play, you give them a reason to want to stay in the game. To me, I'm like, what are we doing? And it's freaking Shipley. And here's another thing. If I was, you would not want me as a coach because I would cut everybody. I'd have no team left. Third string running back, we don't use him on offense anymore. He's like never out on offense. So your only job is to field kickoffs. And you couldn't even do that. So I'm like, I would just cut his ass. I was so mad. There's no one coming up behind you on a kickoff. I can understand like someone punching the ball out from behind or whatever. Like shit happens. We're human beings, right? But everybody's in front of you. Like just hold on the freaking. I was so mad. Like you get paid like $1 million. Like, he probably only gets paid $1 million. I don't know. Maybe not even that. But like you get paid a shit ton of money, more money than all of us like would love to have. Just hold on the damn ball. So the Commanders get a field goal. It's hard for me to put that on the defense because they got the ball already in field goal range, right? And then the Eagles did something different. So last week against the Raiders, we did a lot of under center. If you've been following me, you know how much I love the under center stuff. It just opens up the run game. It changes their field of vision. They get to see the field more clearly. They get a running head start, build some momentum. Okay, when you're in the shotgun and you hand the ball off like this, the running back has no momentum. So breaking tackles and having some power is hard to do. You're at a standstill, right? And then I just think play action works. Doing this whole thing like come on, that's not doing anything. I just think play actions work so much better under center. It just opens up a lot more of the offense. But we weren't coming out under center. We were coming out in empty set. So like no running back in the backfield or anything. Like Jalen Hurts by himself in the shotgun and everybody out wide. He was picking the Commanders apart like that. And I think it makes it easier because it spreads the defense out. You know what I mean? It kind of spreads them out, makes it a little bit harder for them to do any kind of exotic things or anything like that. Makes it harder for them to all be around the line of scrimmage. Kind of spreads them out a little bit. And I think that makes reading things easier. The ball is coming out a little bit more on time, a little bit more in rhythm than what Jalen Hurts usually gets it out at. Lord knows I've been complaining about that for a while. Jalen Hurts does have limitations, people. Doesn't mean I don't like the guy. I still consider him a top 10 quarterback in most areas, but that is a limitation of his. It just is. But when you spread him out like that, I think it makes it easier for Jalen to read and to know where to go with the ball. And we were dicing him up. We were doing a little bit of hurry up as well, which is nice because another thing I hate about this offense is we get to the line so damn late in the play clock. It doesn't give us a lot of time to really read things out, everything else and all that stuff. And sometimes when we get to the line, we're taking too long to read things out and we're snapping with 1 second left. It's just, I don't know, like there's no hurry up. But there was actually some hurry up and everything else. And I was like, okay. The problem I have is we didn't really go back to it after we scored a touchdown. We tend to go away from what's working in games and it drives me crazy. Like it was working. Make them prove they can stop it first and then go away from it. And then maybe come back to it later, see if it works again. You know, like Jesus Christ, we help teams out too often, and it drives me crazy. Empty set in the gun and boom, 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 touchdown. Now we're up 7-3 and I'm feeling a little bit better. And then really, the Commanders had the only drive really that I'm going to consider the defense giving up in the whole game is they scored a touchdown on one touchdown drive. They scored another touchdown later, but that was against a backup defense. And again, the field goal that they had, they got the ball already in field goal range. So those two things I'm not going to put on the starting defense, all right? So the only real points the defense really gave up was 7 in my mind on that touchdown drive. Now it made me nervous. I'm like, what the fuck, guys? What the fuck? Because that was early in the game. For all I knew, were they going to get more drives like that? Who knew? But I was a little bit nervous. I was like, what the hell? We missed 2 field goals, really 3. So the Eagles have a kicker problem with Jake Elliott right now. Now they had a kicker problem last year in the regular season. In the playoffs, it got a little better. Now, he missed a couple extra points in the playoffs, but the field goals were all like he was becoming automatic in the playoffs again, becoming clutch in the playoffs, thank God. Hopefully that happens this year too, because he's becoming an issue, Jake Elliott. And in the playoffs, man, those are 1-score games. You can't be missing field goals, okay? So it makes me a little nervous. So we went into halftime down 10-7, and I'm like, what the fuck? And the Commanders are going to get the ball first. Commanders got the ball first, did nothing with it. Marcus Mariota got hurt on that 3 and out. And then we scored a touchdown and we were up. They brought in their, I guess, third string, Josh Johnson. Something Johnson. It's been in the league for freaking ever. And at that point, you knew it was kind of over. And the Eagles just torched him from there. We went for 2 one time, going up 18 points. We went up 19 points. And this was like late in the fourth quarter with like 4 or 5 minutes left to go. Kind of rubbed the Commanders the wrong way. It kind of probably would have rubbed me the wrong way too. Nick Sirianni tried to reason it like, hey, if they get 2 touchdowns, they're up 16 points, now a field goal will beat us if we're only up by 18. There's like 4 minutes left, dude. And they're down to their third string quarterback. You're worried about them getting 2 touchdowns, 2 2-point conversions, and getting the ball back to where a field goal could beat you. Come on, man. Come on. I would have took it personally if I was the Commanders. I'd have been a little heated, like, what the fuck? There is an etiquette to be had here. You could say, okay, well, maybe they didn't want to kick because Jake Elliott was missing. It was an extra point. Okay, maybe he pulled a leg muscle or something. He had him kick off like 60 seconds after that. Okay, maybe they were trying something that they just wanted to practice on. They wanted to practice at something on the 2-point. They wanted to practice a 2-point play. They ran it to Saquon Barkley up the middle. You know what I mean? So there's nothing I can really look at. Like, I don't think Nick Sirianni was purposely trying to rub it in. I don't think that's what he was trying to do. I don't. I do think in his head he was playing the analytical game. I just question why. Like, you know what I mean? Like, taking it a little bit too seriously. We're 4 minutes left. Whether you're up freaking 18 or 19, does it really matter? But whatever. I mean, if you're playing the Rams, like maybe, I don't know. I could maybe question, I don't know, whatever. Just thought it was weird. At the end of the day, the Eagles played 2 cream puffs. All right, they were on a 3-game losing streak. I did see some differences in the offense against the Chargers. The problem was it was just mistakes galore. Okay, it was interceptions galore, but they were moving the ball. And even on the podcast, I said, this was the first game we lost where I really felt like we were the better team. A lot of times we would win games, but we were outgained by the other team. We just somehow found a way to win. In the Chargers game, I felt like we were the better team. We were moving the ball. It was just mistakes galore. 4 interceptions, another fumble. Other than the mistakes, I did like what I saw from the offense, from how they were scheming things and everything else. I saw improvement in the Chargers game despite the mistakes. Then we Do it against the Raiders. A cream puff. But again, I'm not looking at how much we beat a terrible team by. I'm looking at how are we attacking the team? Our play calling, our sequencing, you know what I mean? The route trees and everything else. Like, what's our formations? Like, that's the stuff I'm looking at. And I again saw progress. Same thing with the Commanders. I'm seeing progress. I'm not looking at the results. I'm looking at, you know what I mean? So hopefully that makes sense. So I'm seeing the Eagles offense doing better. And the Eagles defense is already very, very good. We have a top 5 defense, and that might even be not giving them the due justice that they deserve. You might even be able to say top 3. I don't know. We have a really, really good defense. Jalen Carter is going to come back at some point and come back healthy. Lane Johnson on our offense, he's going to come back healthy. And those, you could argue, those are the 2 best players on our entire team that we haven't had on each side of the ball. So they're going to come back healthy, because they've had time off. So I'm starting to get a little bit optimistic going into the playoffs. Again, not so much from us beating up bad teams. It was more from I think they're starting to get it. I don't know what took them so long. What do we do going forward? We have a chance to get the 2nd seed. It's slim. I think we need the Bears to lose both their last 2 games and us win both the last 2 games. That's how we get the 2nd seed. The Bears do have a tough schedule. They play the 49ers next, and then I can't remember who their next game is without looking at the schedule, but I know it's a quality team. I do remember it being a quality team. So they theoretically could lose both games. It can happen. How much does that matter? How much does a 2nd seed matter? It's, the only way it's going to matter is if you are the 3rd seed and you have to play the 2nd seed in the playoffs. That's the only way it's going to matter, because you would be going to them instead of them going to you. Other than that, there's no other difference. There's no other difference. How much does that an extra week of rest mean to getting that? How much does that matter? And right now, Chicago is that 2nd seed. So you'd be going to Chicago, because I think it also matters, where would you be going? You know what I mean? If we're going to LA, even though it's way across the country, is that really a home field advantage? You know what I mean? I think Chicago, it's very Philly-like. It could be very, very windy. How much does that matter to the Eagles? You could also drop to the 4th seed. And I will say you do not want to go to the 4th seed, because in the playoffs, the 4th seed plays the 5th seed. So that means you're going to be playing the LA Rams in the first week of the playoffs. Not ideal. Or if the Seahawks lose and the Rams get back, you'll be playing the Seahawks in the first round of the playoffs. Again, not ideal. You really don't want to be the 4th seed. The only way I can see us being the 4th seed is us dropping both games and maybe the Panthers winning both games. I don't even know the mathematics on that. I'd have to look at it, but I think it's still an option. Personally, what I would do is I would play the starters against the Bills, and you would use that as a litmus test. Not only are you going to play your starters one more week and just kind of see how the seeds fall, that way you can kind of just assess where you're at in the final, going into the final week of the season. How realistic is it that you'll move up or down or whatever like that, and just kind of figure it out from there, right? But player starters against Buffalo, use that as a litmus test game. You've played a really bad Raiders and Commanders team. Play the Bills, a playoff team, a good team, see how you do, and then you kind of have an idea going into the playoffs. If you win that game, man, you got some good momentum. You're feeling super confident. If you lose that game, how did you lose it? What adjustments do we need to be made before these games freaking are elimination? You know what I mean? So I would play my starters against the Bills. And then honestly, getting the 2nd seed isn't, to me, a major thing from the 3rd seed. So really, honestly, I would probably, regardless of what it's like, I would probably rest my starters against the Commanders. And quite frankly, Tanner McKee and the backup receivers, I think probably could beat Washington. I do. I really do. I think they probably could beat Washington. So you might win that game regardless. That's how I would do it. I would play against the Bills, make that your litmus test, see where you're at, and then rest your starters for the last week of the season. Get everybody healthy, those little bumps and bruises, get some treatment, get ready for hopefully 4 postseason games. All right, this is the part of the show where I really wish Dane was here instead of at the hospital with his wife. But Bears beat the Packers 22-16 in overtime. Again, this was another really, really good game. Now, when I first started watching it, man, did it have a playoff environment to it. Like, the chances both teams are going to get in the playoffs are really high. I know the Packers are reeling right now, but especially with the Lions losing, it makes it a little bit easier for the Packers to get in. So both teams are going to get in the playoffs. This was more about seeding, who's going to win the division, stuff like that. Man, you could hear the crowd over the broadcast. It was just so loud and so much energy. I'm like, oh shit. And both offenses went straight down the field and I think blundered on a fourth down, but they both went right down the field and then blundered on a fourth down. The other one went right down the field, blundered on a fourth down. And I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, no points yet, but like these offenses came to play. This could be like a shootout because the first drives on both teams just pew, pew. And then it got boring. If you only like offense, you don't like defense, it got real boring. The wind was howling. All of a sudden got real hard to move the ball. It's like both teams gave like their best shot on offense, no points, and then it became like a defensive affair. I left the game feeling very much the same as I did with the Seahawks beating the Rams. I feel like the better team lost. It just felt that way. And again, Bears fans are going to come at me like, what the hell? Like, no disrespect at all. No disrespect. It just felt like the better team lost. Credit to the Bears, defending their home turf. And as soon as Green Bay failed on that fourth down in overtime, you knew like, ah, shit. And I was just thinking to myself like, oh, Dane's pissed. He's pissed, And honestly, I liked the fight from the Green Bay Packers defense. After Micah Parsons got injured the week prior, I thought they showed a lot of fight and a lot of grit. I really did. I mean, it could have been very easy for that whole unit because their secondary hasn't been that great all year anyway. It was mostly the run defense and the pressure they were getting on the quarterback and stuff like that, right? The secondary wasn't too great. But honestly, like, I really felt like they still had that same grit and determination. They just let up one really, really bad throw at the end, man. It was actually a really interesting game, to be honest with you. I joke around saying it was boring. It wasn't boring. It's just I thought it was going to be really offensive heavy at first, just by how both teams went. And then it just got defensive pretty quickly. It looks like Chicago's got a stranglehold on that division now. They'll be the 2 seed or the 3 if they lose, but I can't see them falling any more than that. So that's that game. All right, so before we get to the fantasy stuff and everything, and just a couple, few little notes. I'm not really going to get into like weekly news stuff. There wasn't a ton of things that happened. A lot of it's like playoff stuff and team specific things. Not a lot of stuff that happened. Although Myles Garrett at 22 sacks, he's 1 sack away. One away from having the record all to himself. Now, he's not going to get to 30. If you guys have been watching the show previous weeks and everything else, Dane threw out like, could he get to 30? Because, sometimes he gets like 3 sacks a game. Not going to get to 30. He would need 8 more sacks the rest of the way. So he'd need to get 4 in each game. That's not going to happen. But yeah, he's going to get 1 sack in the last 2 weeks. The only way that would not happen is if teams are like, they're very hyper focused on him not getting the sack record against them. I have to see who the Cleveland Browns are playing. If it's nobody that's in the playoffs really, or they could be real cheap. Try to keep him at bay and only worry about him. And that'd be kind of messed up. I don't think that's how the league works. I think there's too much respect across the board for what he's done. That I think teams will just try to play honest and try to play, to win the game and not so much to just stop him, because that would suck. That'd be terrible. So obviously, yeah, double team or chip and everything, just like you would in a normal game, but try to win the game. Don't just make it all about, oh, he's not going to get the sack record against us. Come hell or high water, that will not happen. Like, don't go into that thinking, because I think that really ruins the game. So yeah, he's going to get it. Also, Metcalf. Kind of taking a swing at a fan. Look, I don't know what the fan said. Obviously, it ticked him off enough to go over to the fan and everything else and grab him and everything else and like kind of swipe at him. You play this game for multi-millions of dollars and everything else, fans are going to say some stupid stuff. I mean, they serve alcohol at the freaking stadium. So it's going to happen. I don't care what he said. I literally do not care. You got to be better than that. You got to be better than that. You know, you're going to be going to the playoffs. You don't want some kind of weird ass suspension where you're suspended like 4 games and that means you're going to like miss some playoff time. You don't want any of that going on. So really stupid by him. Really stupid. Then as far as some playoff news, like, look, we're getting down to the nitty and gritty. Like, we basically know who's in for the most part. In the AFC, you got the Ravens who, after losing against the Patriots, they need help. Winning out is just not enough anymore. They need help. And their only really path in is to win the NFC North. It's looking bad. It's looking bad. They need the Steelers to lose next week. No other way around it. The Colts are hanging on by like the tiniest of all threads. They play tonight. I'm recording this on Monday. I don't know if either of those teams are going to get in. I think who's in the AFC playoffs right now are in. But the Colts and the Ravens are the two that are like hanging on by dear life. Over in the NFC side, you have the Lions and the Buccaneers right now that are not currently in, that are hanging on by dear life. Now, the Buccaneers have a little bit more a path, all right? They need to beat the Panthers in the final week of the season. No ifs, ands, or buts. They need, because their only real path in is that NFC South. The Panthers play the Seahawks. Tough game. I think the Panthers could beat the Seahawks. I'm not predicting them to, though. But even if they lose, that game still is what matters. You know what I mean? So win, lose, that game is still what matters. I think the Panthers are going to beat the Bucs again, but the Bucs are in a little bit better position than the Lions. The Lions, they're hurting. They're on life support. Again, who's in the playoffs in the NFC right now is who's going to get in. But again, you still have, just like the AFC, 2 teams that are hanging on by life support. All right, let's get on to some fantasy football.
It's time for fantasy football with Dane and Justin. Get ready to dominate your league.
All right, so we got some overachievers and underachievers of week 16. Overachievers for me, it's got to be Puka Nacua. I mean, my fantasy team went against him. So RIP my fantasy team. Sarah, I fucking hate you. He had 12 receptions for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you played Yahoo Fantasy, he got you 46.5 points. So hats off to Puka Nacua. The guy's basically unguardable. I also put Matthew Stafford. He was 29-49 for 457 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and got you 31.28 points. And my dumbass left him on my bench. For who, you might add? Well, that brings me to my underachiever. I want to cry. Jackson Dart. Yes, I benched Matthew Stafford for Jackson Dart round 1 of the playoffs in my fantasy team. Just because, I was thinking like, he's going to get the rush total too. Seahawks are a good defense. Matthew Stafford didn't put up much points last time he played the Seahawks. Jackson Dart might, run around and stuff like that, get me some points there. Like, I thought it was actually a smart play. Even freaking Google AI agreed with me. Well, I left 31.28 points on my bench, and Jackson Dart got me a whopping 1.42 points. I don't know why I'm giving you guys fantasy advice. I really don't. Like, this is stupid. I don't know why we have any business giving you fantasy advice, but we're going to do it anyway. So the results. Last week, I told you to start Ladd McConkey. He got 4 receptions, 43 yards, and 1 touchdown. I'd say middling. Dane told you to start Omarion Hampton. He got you 16 carries for 85 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 catch for 10 yards. Again, middling, but probably a little bit better. The sit results. I told you to sit Brock Bowers against that Texans defense. He got 5 receptions for 33 yards and did get a touchdown. So again, middling. Probably not as good as he usually gets you, but still not much. Dane told you to sit Tyler Warren. I don't got the stats on this because the Colts play the 49ers tonight. So that is TBD. All right, stardom. Now I do got Dane's stardom and situms as well as mine. So my stardom for this week is Terry McLaurin, Wide receiver of the Commanders against the Dallas Cowboys defense. Now, again, I don't know who's going to be throwing him the ball. I don't know if Marcus Mariota is going to come back this week and play, or if it's going to be Josh Johnson, in which case I'm just basically betting on that speed against the porous Dallas defense. Dane also has start Zay Flowers versus his Packers secondary. He's not a big fan of the Packers secondary, and I can see why. The Packers secondary has not been great. It's really been their rush defense and that line, the pass rush and everything else that's been what really is helping that defense. As far as sit-em, I have sit Amon-Ra St. Brown versus the Vikings. I just think the Vikings have like an exotic pressure defense, exotic blitz defense and coverages and everything else that could kind of confuse Jared Goff. I still think the Lions are going to win. I just think Amon-Ra might not get as much as he usually gets you against that defense. And then Dane has to sit Derrick Henry if the Ravens don't sit Derrick Henry for him, because sometimes I don't know why the Ravens do what the Ravens do. But sit Derrick Henry against his Packers defense. Again, we respect the rush defense of the Packers more so than the secondary. So that is our stardoms and sit-ems for Week 17 in the NFL. Take it with a grain of salt. All right, let's get to some weekly previews. We have the Ravens at the Packers. Packers are a 3.5-point favorite. Man, like two bipolar teams, man. The Ravens need this game like you would not believe. They also need help to get into the playoffs. The Packers, while they're not like in, the Lions losing really helped them out a lot. I think their division winning hopes probably should be gone at this point. It's really just make the playoffs, make the wild card. And with the Lions losing, it gives them a little bit of room, a little bit of flexibility. You already beat the Lions anyway. You already swept them. So the Ravens need this game more, I think. I still think the Packers win, though. I think the Packers win, and I think the Packers cover that 3.5 points. I see the Packers winning by like 5 or 7, somewhere around that range. Dane has the Ravens winning and covering, so he's going against his team. So that's our first disagreement in the first game. I don't know. I can see both teams winning. I can see both teams losing. They're both very bipolar. They both tend to play up and down to their opponents. It makes it really, really hard. I think it comes down to how the Ravens defense plays. If the Ravens defense plays a little bit closer to what they're capable of, maybe not so much how they played against New England, but just a little bit closer to how they were playing before, I think they could probably get it done, or at the very least cover. But I do have the Packers winning and covering. Dane, who is the Packers fan, has the Ravens winning and covering. That brings us to the Eagles at Bills. Bills are a 3-point favorite. That's about right. I probably would have had them at like 2 or 2.5. 3 is pretty much right there, just on the high side. It's at Buffalo. Man, me and Dane disagree on this one too. He has the Bills winning and covering. I actually have the Eagles winning and covering, and I'll tell you why. I never would have thought I'd have said this like 2 weeks ago. Never in a million years. The NFL is a matchup game. It's a matchup league. And I think the Bills, they have Josh Allen and James Cook. And that's really it. I know they have Dalton Kincaid and stuff, but really it's those two. And how they get you in trouble is they get the defense to over pursue one way or the other. They make a defense undisciplined. And that's where Josh Allen hurts you and this and that and everything else, extending plays and, side arming it to somebody crossing the field, stuff like that. I think the Eagles are a little bit more disciplined of a defense. Look, Josh Allen's going to make his plays. James Cook's going to make his plays. Outside of Jahmyr Gibbs, James Cook is the second player I fear with the ball in his hands. He can do special shit. But I think the Eagles can kind of hold the score down a little bit, hold them in check enough. And then on the other side, I know the Eagles have not been great running the ball, but they are getting better and they are figuring themselves out at just the right time. The Bills' defense is not great. It's not great. So as long as the Eagles can still kind of keep that upward trend going, I think that maybe we could surprise the Bills. And now it depends. Like, is it going to be some rain, sleet, snow? What's the weather going to be like? If it's really, really bad, I think that changes things. If the weather's really, really bad and snowy and stuff like that, I think the Bills will get us, because I think the Bills have a better running game than the Eagles. However you look at it, I think the Eagles are better at stopping the run than the Bills. So it might just equal out. I don't know. I'm going to pick the Eagles to win and to cover. Dane's going to pick the Bills to win and to cover. So 2 game predictions, and me and Dane are complete opposites. All right, last game preview is Bears at 49ers. 49ers are a 3-point favorite. I'm actually surprised the 49ers are favored. I know it's at the 49ers, but I mean, what do the Bears have to do to earn some respect around here? You know, like, goddamn. I actually have the Bears winning and covering. Dane has the 49ers winning, but the Bears covering. So 49ers barely winning by one or 2 points. You start wondering how the hell the 49ers have the record they have with all the players missing on defense and stuff like that, and Purdy in and out. I think the Bears, I actually think this might be somewhat of a high scoring game. Not crazy high scoring, but like 27-24, something like that. I have the Bears beating the 49ers, but by not much. But because the 49ers are favored, just the Bears winning in general makes them cover. So it's going to be like a 2 or 3 point Bears victory, I feel like. That's just kind of where I'm coming from with it. We both have the Bears covering. So that's technically, even though we have different winners, both pick the Bears to cover, which means we're on the same page as far as that one's concerned. So... all right, so that's our podcast. It's actually kind of one of the quicker ones, quite honestly. And you know what? I tried to stay on track as much as I could. Obviously, I got nobody with me to bounce ideas off, so it really becomes very one-sided, me just talking to the camera. But hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you guys think I fucked up or think I'm just stupid as shit and you want to put your comments or your feedback in the, by all means. Anyway, my name is Justin, and this is the Tailgate Talkers podcast. See you later.